Welcome to Books on Air, the podcast that tells the story behind the book. It includes insights from authors about how they compose their work, what inspires them, and what they hope you'll take away from their book. Here's your host for this episode of Books on Air, Suzanne Harris.
Welcome to the Books on Air podcast. I'm Sloan Fremont, filling in for Suzanne Harris. This is a podcast where listeners get the secret story behind every book. Joining me today is Athan Panayotou, author of the book Fog, Volume 1, Chaos in Quantum City. This book is a gritty take on the superhero genre with some elements of humor and suspense thrown in too, as not everyone will use their unique abilities for good. So Athan, I want to welcome you to the Books on Air podcast.
Hello, hiya.
So let's start out by telling the audience just a little bit about yourself and what led you to write your book, Fog, Volume 1, Chaos in Quantum City.
Well, I've just always really been a really creative, just so much creativity that I've always wanted to make like my own kind of superhero kind of universe. And from a very young age, like 16, 17, I had draw illustrations of these characters that I was doing. And I really wanted to just write the stories like as if they were like the comic books. And within that next year, so I was like 17, I started, and it was something very, very it was kind of like I was writing it as like issue by issue, as if it was a comic book, but then I didn't have the time or the means to do that, so I ended up making it into a novel.
I see. Yeah. Well, so can you set the scene for us and tell us when and where the story takes place?
So it's in like an alternate future of the life that we live in. It's set in 2183, and it's set in Ireland, in a fictional city called Quantum City that is more or less where the location of Galway is. And yeah, it's like a very Quantum City is kind of like a semi-utopian, it's the other half's dystopian. It's not all good, and there's always people plotting behind the scenes, and these characters kind of just get thrown into the mix and have to figure out what's going on and how they're going to use their abilities.
Yeah. So can you introduce us to some of the main characters from your book?
Yeah. So there is Nathan Stewart. He is kind of like the main embodiment of like the good character. He always wants to like strive to do the right thing, and just try to live like an everyday normal life. He's got a bit of a secret identity. And then you've got Karis, who is the other more or less kind of protagonist. She is very, very complicated, kind of like she's just very quirky, goofy, but also has a lot of psychotic kind of edge to her. And you can find out why and more about her in the book. And then there's her brother Felix, who's a couple of years older, and he's more he kind of wants to like protect her at the start, but he soon realizes that she's kind of grown into her own person, and she can protect herself with these abilities. And he's kind of more of a gray character. He just kind of wants to get by. Not everything he does is let's say good, or he's not evil. He just wants to get by with, he just gets fed up with people like a lot easier, and but he just kind of wants to sit at home with a beer, and that's all he really wants to do.
Right.
But, and the other character, Natasha, is a bit like Felix. She's like, she doesn't take any what's the word? She's a shorter fuse. She'll take matters into her own hands, and fix a situation by herself. And a bit hot-headed, but yeah. So they're like the main four like protagonists, and then the main antagonists. Well, there's a few, because I did it as like a comic book
Right.
format, so there'd be like more of it, like, you know, bad guys and villains that will come in. But the one of the most interesting would be Elliot, and he's the one that's really stirring the pot. He is causing grief and what's the word, hindering. He's a
Mm-hmm.
hindrance. I
Mm-hmm.
guess you could say they're hindering each other, but yeah, he's got his own plan in the works and things he wants to do, and they're not morally good. So, but yeah, so that's like the main characters. But Elliot's very like upper class, like stereotypical kind of snob, but he's very intelligent, and he can be a bit unhinged. But yeah, you'll have to read it to find out.
Right, right. Yes. Well, and it sounds like you have an interesting mix of characters, and the perfect storm for a good story with all those different qualities. And so did you draw on like people you've known over your life for these characters, or were they just these ideas that came to mind and you knew that these characters had these qualities?
I think back when I was like teenager, I think I was basing like Nathan after myself, and
Hmm.
hence with just adding an N to my name, Athan Nathan.
Right,
Um, and so I guess that was just the young optimist in myself. I'm like, yep,
right.
let's go. He's the good character. And then I guess Karis is almost kind of like a really like, because like there's a bit of a story to that name. So like when I was a child, unborn, they thought I was going to be a girl, so that my name was going to be Karis. So I
Ah,
just really got drawn to that name and ended up making that character. And not that I'm basing myself off of that character,
right.
but yeah. So like they're just, that's just kind of how the names came about. I was just kind of like playing around, but not so much that I'm basing my drawings or the appearances off of like friends or family or
Mhm.
anything. They were just kind of like these ideas that just kind of put pen to paper or pencil to paper.
Yeah, yeah. And so which character was your favorite to write?
Probably Karis, because
Yeah.
she's just so like you can't really expect what she's gonna do next, because she's just
Mm.
so impulsive and wacky and zany.
Yeah. Well, and so when you're writing, I mean, one of the things and what I love talking to authors about when you're writing is that, like, especially with characters and how they develop as you're writing the story, like there's so much freedom to allow the characters to do whatever they want, right? Like, because it's your story, so you get to tell it however you want. And so when you're writing and you're creating these characters and these personalities that come out, it's always so interesting for me to hear how those come, because it's they develop over time, it seems, and that freedom I think would be so fun to be able to have when you're writing.
Yeah, definitely. I really do love character development, and it's just like, if the characters definitely aren't the same as they were at the start of the book than they are at the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
and and like even with like the book after it, which is unpublished, but like the characters continue on, their stories continue on, their personalities change. But yes, like I really had a lot of fun with their kind of own like individual journeys and like how they
Mm-hmm.
change. uh with Felix, he is very just, as I said earlier, he's just kind of, he struggles through life. He just kind of wants to do what's easiest, but eventually he will take up more responsibility. That's just like a little hint, but like, yeah, I really do love the change in character development. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So let's move into the story a little bit more. What is one of your favorite scenes from your book?
Favorite scenes? I think my favorite scene is probably, I think it's when Karis goes on a bit of a rampage. She goes after like after the company that wronged her, and she just kind of lets all hell let loose. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um and there's like a pinnacle moment that happens there where like things happen. I'm not going to spoil, but yeah, I think it's that, and it's just the creativity that I had with like how she uses her abilities, um, and how creative she could get with them,
Yeah.
per se as well, and how much she's actually kind of practiced and honed on how to use them, um, to her own kind of like uh personality, I guess. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's that. I just have a lot of fun writing her as a character and how she deals in with situations.
Yeah, and especially something set in the future too, right? Because again, anything goes, right? It's in the future, so there's no
Yeah.
parameters, there's no like guardrails you have to go by or anything. And that's one of the reasons I love reading like futuristic books, sci-fi, that kind of stuff, and even watching movies like that, because to me, it opens up your own, as the reader, it opens up my creativity to help me think about things differently or look at things differently. Because again, I'm in like as I'm reading it, I'm putting myself in that futuristic place, and it's, to me, it's always, I feel like it helps me expand creatively reading these types of books like this.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So as you're writing the book, what surprised you the most in your writing process?
Um, to be honest, I actually quite surprised myself. Because I think with how I write, I will kind of get the base storyline down in bullet points in like a
Mm-hmm.
separate Word like document, and
Mm-hmm.
then when I'm doing dialogue, I just kind of let it flow naturally and how that person would react or reply to that person. And I guess that's kind of the main surprise. I think I think the big surprise is when I create, um, separate, like, kind of aspects of the story. And then I think it was in the writing process that I realized, oh my goodness, these things all can connect together and just really bring the story all together. And I think that, like, I think I did it, um, like a bit unintentionally,
Yeah.
but I've done it a few times, and I love it when it happens, and it really surprises myself.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And I'm sure that feels
yeah,
good too, because it's like you're kind of taking these different avenues, and then to have it all tie together is like, yes, this is working. This is how I wanted this to be.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's probably the most exciting thing. I think as well with when I'm reading back through earlier stuff, and like if I'm making changes,
Mm-hmm.
I'll realize, oh, this needs to be changed, and then it opens up more ideas and like conclusions to subplot lines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it really is can just be out of the blue and just yeah, surprise myself. Um, and
Yeah. Those are
then
the best
sometimes,
surprises.
definitely sometimes, if I'm going back and I'm reading all, like, like in the process of like I need to catch up on what I've written to make sure if it all makes sense and the continuity is fine, I will stumble across my own jokes and laugh at them. That's how.
Yeah, that has to feel really good. I mean, that's
Yeah,
that's
that's just how
amazing.
silly it is. But yeah, and I'm like, right, if I'm laughing at it and if I've forgotten, like that has to be funny.
Right, right, exactly.
Um,
So what would you say sets your book apart from other books in this genre?
I think it's probably there's not a lot of that kind of superhero like, but like dark gritty. Like there is a bit more of it coming up like now, but with like TV shows. But I think with like just the more adult themes that are in it that you don't really see a lot. Like if I'm referencing to like some of Marvel and DC, it's very like it's hard to describe, just like this golden age, like superheroes, and they can do
Yeah.
no wrong. And
Yeah.
but I really wanted to kind of have my own like band of superheroes that are set at like closer to home, because a lot of the superhero genres are set in like Spider-Man in New York and like in America, and I just wanted
Mm-hmm.
to make my own ones in Ireland and Northern Ireland at home, so and the UK. So just that, and the tonality of it, where it's anything can happen, and these characters are so complex, and not everyone's gonna use their abilities for good, and that just, it can all spiral out of control.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And then again, as a reader, it takes you to a different place, right? You can like totally lose yourself in stories like this because you're going to a different place. And it's I always love stories like that.
Yeah, definitely. I really love, what was I gonna say? How, yeah, like when I'm writing the scenes, I actually just picture the scenes, and like
Yeah.
as if it's playing out as a film or a TV show. And that really sucks me into my own writing when I'm doing it, and I can really
Mm-hmm.
picture everything. And it's quite exciting to have that writing process as well.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so thinking back about the writing process and who you were before you wrote the book and now on the other side of the book and even having, your second book in the works, what would you say, what did you learn about yourself, or how can, like, looking back on yourself, how would you say you've changed through this process?
I think it's probably just with my skill of writing or making
Mm-hmm.
like storytelling,
Yeah.
and surprising myself in how I can make really captivating stories, and uh, just kind of like an exercise of creativity and having to connect lots of things together with continuity. I have a lot of side projects that I do in my spare time, and I really like to connect stories over as if it's like a really lived in world, that some
Mm-hmm.
things will affect other
Yeah.
characters.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Um, that's I think it's just the exercise of connecting things and creativity, and it's really uh opened my thought process of
Mm-hmm.
how am I going to tackle these stories in future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I mean, would you say that carries over in other areas of your life too? Like in the way you look at the world and the way you really experience life after you've been through something like this with the writing?
I think so, yeah. I think, well, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'll take, or I think with in the real world, uh, I think I try to make what's the word? I forgot the word, but like connect it, like I can't remember the word.
It's
Connect
okay.
it back and forth, like from the fiction to like, oh, what kind of technologies exist like in the real
Yeah.
life, and
Mm-hmm.
how I can like translate that and make it more sci-fi. And yeah, I think so. That's yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. And it's, and so you've been through the writing process and you wrote your book. What advice would you offer someone who's just starting out with writing, or maybe someone who has an idea and hasn't quite got started yet? What advice would you offer them?
I would advise, if you've got like a small group of friends or a couple of friends who love writing as well, definitely shoot ideas back and forth. I've got a couple of friends who are also writers, and we will give share our ideas or concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is this good for the story? And I'll help them with things, and they'll help me, and then it is very, very beneficial, especially if you're in like a creative rut, or like you've got writer's block.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely sharing ideas, bouncing off of each other, bouncing off your friends will definitely help and benefit, because it nearly works every time.
Yeah.
Uh, if I've got a creative burst, like a muse, it'll inspire my friends, and vice versa. It just, creativity is contagious.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I love that inspiration amongst each other too. You can help inspire each other.
Yeah. So I would say that just definitely surround yourself with other creative, like-minded people, and share your ideas. Not to the point that, that they're gonna steal your ideas. Make sure you're actual friends. But like, because I'd be wary with like writing like focus scripts and stuff in case like they But yes, I would definitely get your help from friends and stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. So my guest today has been Athan Panayotou, author of the book Fog, Volume 1, Chaos in Quantum City. And Athan, before we close out today, what do you hope the readers learn or take away after reading your book?
I think I would like for the readers to somewhat see them, like take something away from the book, from the characters. Maybe they could learn something. But maybe if they could maybe see themselves in the characters, and as if they enjoy the story, I feel like if someone is like enjoys the story, I feel like I've done my mission.
Yeah.
If I've made someone happy, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Great. I love it. And Athan, I want to thank you for joining us today and being our guest on Books on Air.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, and you can find more about the book, Fog, Volume 1, Chaos in Quantum City, on Amazon, and I'll link to the book in the show notes, so be sure to check that out. You've been listening to the Books on Air podcast, brought to you on webtalkradio.net. You can also hear this podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. I'm Sloan Fremont, and I hope you'll join us for the next Books on Air podcast. Remember, you never know who's going to be here, and you never know what we're going to talk about. Thank you so much for listening.